Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well today. This time we are going to be talking about Risk on the Sega Genesis. So, this is based off of the board game, as I think most people could probably figure out from just the title. It's a pretty fun board game to play. It's very complicated to figure out. It's one of those games that I remember playing a lot with my dad, or at least trying to play with my dad, and not really understanding what I was supposed to be doing, which happens. When you look at the board, you have a bunch of, I think, like colonial representations of countries, so stuff may not be exactly what it's supposed to be. It may not look right, but hey, it's not really meant to be totally accurate. You're just supposed to, move stuff around, claim different countries, and try to dominate the world. And I think the Sega Genesis version does a somewhat decent job of kind of taking that whole concept and turning it into something that you might want to play. At least I remember playing it a lot. I have a lot of very fond memories of playing this game, which probably sounds really weird, but yeah, I remember playing this an awful lot growing up. Especially when, we finally started collecting video games, me and a bunch of my friends. And yeah, we spent like most of a spring break playing this game, but I'll get more into that later. I just want to say this, the game is broken. Like, it really is. Stuff does not make that much sense in this game. If you know anything about the board game, it's gonna get a little weird when you play this game, but it is a lot of fun, even if stuff doesn't always make a whole lot of sense, especially near the end of the game. But one of the big things to do in this, and the way you play this game, is you are just claiming different territory. Every turn you get a certain number of armies. That's usually calculated based on the continents that you have and other countries that you control as well. The game takes that whole mathematical formula and everything and simplifies it down to just have the computer do it for you, which I kind of appreciate. It makes a lot more sense when the computer does that, and it makes the game a little bit more enjoyable. Now, when you go into the battle screens, you've probably seen a few of these. You have the enemy armies in the background there, and you have 3 cannons in the foreground. You can control how the cannons shoot, kind of, I think, or at least it feels like you can sometimes. But for the most part, it's really just very random, and you're kind of just hoping that you blow up the other enemies. It is a lot nicer to have that than just like your traditional dice roll, because you at least have something to look at. Now, when you win battles, you get cards, and these cards can be turned in to get more armies. And when you defeat when you defeat an opponent, completely wipe them out, then you get more armies as well. So you'll get their cards, and then you can turn those in. At least I think that's how it's working in this game. It seems like it, but anything could be doing that. It's very bizarre the way it's working, but it does do stuff. So, hey, it kind of works. And just the different cards that you get depend on, like, they will determine the number of armies that you get. It doesn't really matter on type here because you're just dealing with mathematics. So if you have more armies than the enemy, you have a greater chance of winning, which isn't always true, but you usually have a greater chance of winning. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about the visuals of the game. Because this is just a board game, you're not getting a whole lot of like crazy visuals. This isn't going to look as impressive as many other games out there. But the graphics do get the job done. You've got a visual representation of the map, you can see what your armies are, how many armies you have, and you can see where the enemies are and how many armies the enemy have. Wow, that's a tongue twister. So once you get to the battle screens, I think they look pretty good, especially for the Sega Genesis. And they really didn't have to do a battle screen that was somewhat interactive, but I think it looks pretty good. You can see where the enemy soldiers are. They don't have to look all that impressive. And when you do what I normally do when I get tired of trying to go through the battle screens and you go to like the auto battle, then you get some fairly decent sprite work for the time. It looks kind of nice. I like the way the game looks overall, even if it's really not anything that's super impressive. It's just kind of a fun game that really just takes risk, simplifies it down, and makes things kind of look a little bit better. It's a fun looking game to have. It's a fun game to play. You get some different backgrounds on the battle screens, so it looks kind of fun. It's pretty easy to identify just where the enemies are, what they're doing, where they're moving to, where they're attacking. I don't know. There's not too much more to say about the visuals here, because a lot of this stuff is going to either be automated or so incredibly random that it just won't matter. I do like the sprite work, though, or not the sprite work, but the pixel art and everything. I think it looks pretty good. It kind of reminds you of just the whole feel of the original game of Risk, which was more of more colonial and that sort of thing. Okay, so now we get into the memories part. This is probably my favorite part of anything of talking about Risk. This is a game that, for some weird reason, my friends and I just kind of gravitated to when we were in high school. I think the PS2 had just come out, the Dreamcast was out, and we went on like a spring break. Or we were on spring break, and we took this like really old RV up to a campground. And so we were hanging out at a campground, and we had a bunch of video games with us. Stuff that would have been way more fun to play than Risk. But for some weird reason, we just kept playing Risk on our Sega Genesis. And so the four of us would be sitting in this camper, just playing Risk over and over again, trying to figure out why the hell the game was so weird. And so it was always 2-on-2. That's just the way we always played. And the reason why this game is so broken and messed up, you get to the point where it's just like, where one person is gone, they've been defeated, so now it's 2-on-1. And one guy will be like, okay, I'm gonna take this person over. And they miscount by how much they need in order to completely wipe out your country. Like, they blow through your initial defense, and they're kind of pushing through all the little one country pieces that you have. And then they like miscount by like 1 or 2. So they get down to your last one, and they've screwed up. So now you only have one country left, but the other guy on their team can't get to you because they can't go through I think it was they couldn't get through him, or they had already gone, and then it was going over to my turn. And for some godforsaken reason, I have no idea why, the game decided to just give me like 12 frickin' cards. I really don't understand it. It really made me want to go and try to figure out the rules for actual Risk. But it gave me like 12 frickin' cards. So I turn in all these cards, get like 150 frickin' armies or something stupid like that, and just wipe the other team out. This happened every time. Like, every damn time we played this game, we would get to the point where my friend Drew and I would be on one team, and my friend Alex and Justin would be on the other. Drew would get taken out. Justin would end up like pushing me all the way back to one spot. and then I would just get a ridiculous number of armies and beat them all. And that happened every time. I think it even happened, I think there was a time when Justin and Alex won, and the same goddamn thing happened, where Drew and I miscounted, and Alex ended up winning, or Justin ended up winning. But this happened every freaking time we were playing it. And and for some weird reason, we kept playing this game. For like a good week, we just kept playing it. It was so crazy to go through this whole stupid thing and just and just try to figure out what the rules of this damn game were, why it was just so weird, and why the game just made absolutely no sense. It was very, very bizarre. And just after that week of playing Risk on the Sega Genesis, I was like, I love this game. It is just absolutely amazing. And I think all of us ended up owning it at one point. Well, I know Justin owned it. I think then I bought it. I don't think Alex ever did, so I was a little bit off on that. And I'm pretty sure Drew may have owned it, but he ended up selling all of his Genesis stuff because for reasons or whatever. Anyway, let's get into my final thoughts. Yeah, this is one of those games that I love for absolutely no real reason. It's not because it's a good adaptation of the game. It's not because it's, really impressive looking or anything. I just really like it because it's a fun, simple game that is tied to a bunch of nostalgia I have for playing with my friends. There's no real reason to go back and play Risk on the Sega Genesis, but for some weird reason, I really, really enjoy playing it. It's one of the many board games that got ported to a home console and everything. Probably because they figured, we're not selling the same versions of Risk over and over again, so let's try to throw a video game out there and just see what happens. And somebody bought it. I mean, I picked up a used copy of it, so someone out there bought this thing, opened it up, and then sold it back to a video game store so I could get it. And yeah, it's so fun to play these weird games, like weird adaptations of board games, and find some that are just really fun to play, or end up bringing back a bunch of nostalgic memories for absolutely no reason. I'm not sure if anyone else has the same memories of playing this game, but there's some that I just really enjoy, and I really think Risk is a lot of fun to just sit back and play, even if it is kind of a bad port or just a kind of a weird adaptation that takes a lot of liberties with it and just doesn't explain anything. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.